Hello and welcome. Welcome to Input English. In this episode, we address a super interesting topic, something that is relatively poorly understood by most people. And at the end, I'm going to give you 4 areas that you can focus your effort to get better results. So let's get started. We're talking about your most powerful asset, your greatest strength, and that is your brain. The size and capacity of our brain sets us apart from all other species on the planet. I don't think enough credit is given to the magnificence of the human brain. When we are trying to learn something, whether in school or in this case trying to learn or improve our language skills, sometimes we get this impression that our brain is just not up to the task. And nothing could be further from the truth. So let's examine some specifics. In spite of a very sophisticated worldwide education system, relatively little explanation is given to people about the actual function of their brain. And it really isn't talked about much in school at all. It's mentioned that the brain exists and a list of its attributes are taught, but how it actually works, we don't really get taught that. Now, luckily, we have some great information from the field of cognitive psychology, and this is going to be super useful to us, the language learners. We need to know how our brain works if we're going to use it to learn a language. It really helps. The information I'm going to share with you comes out of the work of Robert Bjork and his colleagues at UCLA. He has an excellent YouTube posted a number of years ago on this topic, and I'm going to link that in the description for you. So if you choose, you can go to his original lecture on this topic. Unfortunately, it is easy to get an inaccurate picture of our brain function, and that can cause problems for us, the language learners. We can be led to believe that our brain is just a recording device. It records memories, facts, things that we need to learn, and that it is defective, that we can forget things. And so you learn things, you forget things, and the picture that is given to us is that when we forget something, it's unlearned, it's lost, it's erased. And that's not true. So let's look at the brain function in terms of 3 things. Number 1, learning. Number 2, remembering. And number 3, forgetting. So we have a list of 3 things. Now, if you look at that list, it looks like you've got 2 good things, learning and remembering, and 1 bad thing. That's the undoing of the learning and the inability to remember. That's what it looks like, and many people hold those opinions. Let's reorganize this. So let's put learning on top because we want to learn. We will put remembering off to the side, but then we need to put forgetting off to the side. Now, this is the explanation that Dr. Bjork shared with us from his work, that these 3 phenomena have a symbiotic relationship. There's a little ecosystem going on here, and these 3 concepts interact with each other. Our brain deals with them in a symbiotic way that is for our benefit. If you look at the various organ systems in living creatures and specifically in humans, there are no unopposed forces. If there is something that raises the blood sugar, like glucagon, then there's something that brings the blood sugar down, like insulin. So we don't have unopposed forces. If you have something that builds bones up, you need to have another process that breaks them down so that the entire body just doesn't turn into bone. Human life includes a lot of balance in processes, and what you don't see is unopposed forces. If you're trying to ride a bicycle, what you want is a dynamic, that is a moving and changing, equilibrium and stability. You want dynamic stability. In body functions in humans, all the various organ systems, you see dynamic stability. We call that homeostasis. And there'll be little fluctuations, but it will stay within a normal range. Our brain is another organ. So as we look at the brain, we should not be surprised that there are opposing forces at work. That is learning, remembering, and forgetting. And now it starts to make sense. So once we recognize that there is a symbiosis between learning, remembering, and forgetting, it would be useful to understand the relationships in general terms. What we know from experimental work is that learning fosters remembering. That's not a big surprise. And remembering fosters more learning. Again, that's not a big surprise. What we have also learned is that learning can induce some forgetting, but forgetting allows opportunity for more learning. Remembering can induce some forgetting, but forgetting fosters remembering. It may sound very confusing, but it is just another example of a human organ system working in balance, and it really does make sense. We would not want to remember everything because we would have to keep track of everything. If you are looking for your car keys or your wallet, you only want to look in the relevant recent places. You don't want to start looking in places you might have put them 25 years ago. Now, if we understand that in the function of the human brain, forgetting is normal, then how can we understand forgetting? Is it really the erasure? Is it the loss of that stuff that we learned? And the answer is no. So when you learn something, it is put into your memory. And the strength of that learning is based on how well that thing you learned is connected with other things you know. For our purposes, the ability of the human brain to learn new things is basically infinite. We do not see people learn so much that they start running out of capacity. For our purposes, assume that our brain's ability to learn new things is infinite. When we forget something, it is not erased. It's still in memory. We just can't get access to it. We can't retrieve it. But through various methods, we can eventually recover it. Sometimes it's simply a matter of reviewing the material and refreshing our memory. Now, refreshing our memory is an expression that is used in English all the time, and it's very apt here. It is very appropriate because it celebrates the fact that the memory isn't lost, it just needs to be refreshed. So when you're trying to learn English and you learn things in context through comprehensible input, the words, phrases, and grammar patterns that you're learning are connected to a lot of different things because you're hearing these words and reading these words many times, and you're developing these very complex interconnections of things you know, and that gives you a very strong memory. If you lose the ability to retrieve that for the short term, do not assume that that's lost. It's not lost. You just need to refresh that memory. Forgetting is a normal part of learning, and in our case, learning language. I'll tell you a story. I compose videos and go through the concepts I want to cover while driving in the car. I have some time, there's no one around, and so I will develop the ideas of a video, and this is very useful for me to produce these videos regularly. The other day, I went through that process as usual, and I had a very good concept of a video, and it was nearly ready to record. When I got home, I got busy doing a couple of things, and then I tried to remember what was that video subject matter. What was that I had worked out so well? I couldn't remember it. But knowing what we know about cognitive psychology, learning, remembering, and forgetting, I just ignored the whole thing. I said, I'll get it back. And it wasn't more than 10 minutes before I had remembered exactly what I had done. It was all there and I was ready to go. I recorded it and uploaded it. Our brain is a very complex, very sophisticated human organ system that works very well, but it works in balance with no unopposed forces, and it works very well for language learning. Going forward, if you forget something, don't worry about it. Refresh your memory. Move on. Do something else. If you're in conversation with someone, just use another word. Say it a different way. And with time, that gets easier and easier. As a native English speaker, there are many words in English that at the time of a conversation, I may not be able to remember. So I just use different words. As our vocabulary builds, it gets easier and easier to do this. This very act of expressing ourselves by different methods is part of the process of refreshing that memory. So now we come to the 4 things that we should put our efforts into to make sure that our learning is efficient and effective. Number 1, get enough sleep. In the 21st century, people frequently do not get enough sleep, and sleep deprivation interferes with learning, interferes with remembering. So it's counter to our purposes. Number 2, fatigue. If someone is very fatigued, very tired, that is going to interfere with learning and remembering. Get enough rest. Get enough sleep, get enough rest. Stress. If someone is under a lot of stress, this interferes with learning and it interferes with recall. Number 4, probably the most important, pay attention. So this is where we have it easy as language learners using comprehensible input, because all we have to do is pick out content that piques our interest. We need content that we find interesting, understandable, and compelling. And when we have excellent content that draws us into the story, draws us into the discussion, then it's not a problem to pay attention to it. If we're trying to learn a language and our attention drifts off to other things, we're not learning anymore. Now that you know more about brain function, I invite you to sample our stories. At the end of this video, there will be a link so that you can try one of our charming true stories that you should find interesting. I hope you join us in the next video. See you soon.